You think you live in a solid world. You believe the walls around you are fixed, the ground beneath your feet is stable, and the events of your life are happening to you like waves crashing against a helpless shore. You have spent your entire existence as a victim of circumstance, reacting to a universe that seems to operate without your consent. Joseph Murphy revealed a truth so radical that it shatters everything you thought you knew about reality itself. Your mind is not observing the universe. Your mind is creating the universe. Every thought you think is not a passive reflection floating inside your skull. Every thought is a broadcast, a transmission, a command sent into the fabric of existence that the universe must obey. The atoms that make up your world are not solid. They are waves of probability waiting for consciousness to collapse them into form. And your consciousness, the very awareness reading these words right now, is the force that determines which probability becomes your reality. You are not living in the universe. You are authoring it. The pain you carry is the pain of powerlessness. You wake each morning to circumstances you did not choose. Bills arrive that you did not invite. Relationships crumble that you tried to save. Opportunities vanish that you reached for with desperate hands. You have prayed to a silent sky. You have wished upon stars that seemed deaf to your pleas. You have done everything the world told you to do, worked hard, stayed positive, followed the rules, and still the universe delivered results that mocked your efforts. The deepest wound is not the failure itself. It is the creeping suspicion that you do not matter. That your thoughts, your dreams, your very existence is irrelevant to a cold mechanical cosmos that grinds forward without noticing you at all. This is the torture of the unconscious creator. You have been shaping reality your entire life without knowing it, and because you did not know it, you shaped a reality that reflects your deepest fears instead of your highest vision. Let me use the reverse bridge to expose the mechanism of your suffering. You have been thinking that your thoughts respond to your circumstances. You see a problem and you worry about it. You experience a loss and you grieve over it. You encounter an obstacle and you fear it. This seems natural. This seems like cause and effect. But Murphy revealed that you have the equation backwards. Your circumstances respond to your thoughts. The worry creates more problems. The grief attracts more loss. The fear builds more obstacles. You are not reacting to reality. You are generating reality through the sustained focus of your consciousness. Every moment you spend thinking about what you do not want is a command to the universe to deliver more of what you do not want. You are the sculptor complaining about the statue while your own hands never stop carving. Murphy promises you something that will change your life forever. If you learn what he called the architecture of mental causation, you will never be a victim again. You will understand exactly how your thoughts become things. You will learn the precise mechanism by which consciousness collapses probability waves into material form. You will discover that the universe is not ignoring you. The universe is obeying you with terrifying precision. It has been obeying you all along. The chaos you experience is not random. It is the faithful execution of the chaotic commands you have been broadcasting through unfocused, fear-based thinking. When you take control of your mental transmission, when you learn to broadcast with clarity and conviction, the universe will reorganize itself around your new signal with the same precision it used to create your old circumstances. This is not faith. This is physics. This is the law of mental causation operating through you, whether you acknowledge it or not. In this video, we will learn what Murphy called the transmission protocol, the exact method by which you align your consciousness with the outcomes you desire. You will learn how to enter the state where thoughts become commands instead of wishes. You will learn the specific frequency that the universe responds to and the static that blocks your signal. You will learn why affirmations have failed you in the past and the single adjustment that makes them work with mechanical reliability. But I must warn you about a specific sabotage pattern that destroys the transmission before it can reach the universe. Most people engage in this pattern multiple times per hour without realizing they are canceling their own orders. They place a command with the universe in the morning and then spend the rest of the day sending counter commands that delete the original instruction. I will reveal this sabotage pattern in Part 4 and give you the method to eliminate it permanently. Right now, I need you to make a declaration. Type in the comments below, "I am the creator." This is not a wish. This is not a hope. This is a statement of fact about your fundamental nature. When you type these words, you are not asking permission to create your reality. You are acknowledging the power you have always possessed but never claimed. Type it now. And subscribe to this channel because what you are about to learn requires the complete architecture of sacred understanding. Every video on sacred logic is a piece of the blueprint. Miss one piece and the structure collapses. Stay with me through this entire teaching, and you will emerge with a power that most people spend their entire lives never accessing. Let us begin. To understand how your mind alters the universe, you must first understand what the universe actually is. The scientific model you learned in school presented a picture of solid matter floating in empty space, billiard balls bouncing off each other according to mechanical laws, a dead cosmos operating like a giant clock with no room for consciousness. This model is not just incomplete, it is fundamentally wrong. And the proof of its wrongness comes not from mystics or philosophers, but from the most rigorous branch of physics ever developed, quantum mechanics. At the subatomic level, the universe does not behave like solid matter at all. It behaves like possibility, like potential, like waves of probability that exist in multiple states simultaneously until something forces them to choose a single state. That something is observation. That something is consciousness. That something is your mind. Murphy understood this decades before mainstream science caught up with him. He taught that the subconscious mind is not separate from the universe, but is the universe expressing itself through your individual awareness. The boundary you perceive between your thoughts and the external world is an illusion, a trick of perception that makes you feel separate from the reality you are actually creating. Consider the famous double-slit experiment that has baffled physicists for a century. When particles are fired at a barrier with two slits, they behave like waves, creating an interference pattern on the screen behind the barrier. This makes sense for waves, but here is where reality breaks down. When scientists place a detector at the slits to observe which slit the particle passes through, the interference pattern disappears. The particle suddenly behaves like a solid object passing through one slit or the other. The act of observation changes the behavior of matter at the most fundamental level. Consciousness collapses the wave function. Your awareness determines which possibility becomes actual. This is not a metaphor Murphy invented to make you feel powerful. This is established physics that the scientific community has been wrestling with for 100 years, because it implies something terrifying to the materialist worldview. It implies that consciousness is fundamental to reality. It implies that the observer cannot be separated from the observed. It implies that your mind is not a passive recorder of an external universe, but an active participant in determining what that universe becomes. Murphy took this further than the physicists were willing to go. He taught that every thought you think is an act of observation that collapses probability waves into specific outcomes. When you think about poverty, you are observing poverty into existence. When you think about sickness, you are collapsing the wave function in the direction of sickness. When you think about failure, you are selecting failure from the infinite field of possibility and making it real. The universe does not distinguish between thoughts you want to manifest and thoughts you are merely worried about. It responds to the intensity and consistency of your focus regardless of whether that focus is positive or negative. The analogy Murphy used was the radio transmitter. Your mind is constantly broadcasting a signal into the quantum field. That signal has a specific frequency determined by the dominant thoughts and emotions you hold. The universe, being a responsive medium rather than a dead mechanism, picks up your signal and delivers experiences that match the frequency you are broadcasting. If you broadcast the frequency of fear, the universe delivers circumstances that justify fear. If you broadcast the frequency of abundance, the universe delivers circumstances that reflect abundance. The transmission never stops. Even when you are not consciously thinking, your subconscious mind continues to broadcast based on the beliefs and emotional patterns programmed into it through years of repetition. This is why your life keeps recreating the same patterns even when you consciously want something different. Your conscious mind may want wealth, but if your subconscious is broadcasting poverty, poverty is what the universe receives, and poverty is what the universe delivers. The universe as a responsive medium is the central concept that separates Murphy's teaching from both materialist science and passive spirituality. The materialist says the universe is dead matter, operating according to fixed laws with no room for consciousness to influence outcomes. The passive spiritualist says the universe has a plan and your job is to surrender to it. Murphy taught something radically different. The universe is alive, responsive, and waiting for your direction. It is not a machine that ignores you. It is not a parent that knows better than you. It is a creative medium that takes the shape of whatever mold you press into it. Your consciousness is the mold. Your dominant thoughts and feelings are the impression you make in the clay of reality. And the clay hardens into form with perfect fidelity to the mold you have provided. This means you have been creating your entire life without knowing it. Every circumstance you experience, every relationship, every financial condition, every state of health is the materialized form of your past mental broadcasts. Murphy called this the law of mental equivalence. Your external reality is always the equivalent of your internal reality. Change the internal and the external must change to match. This is not gradual. This is not dependent on action or luck or other people's decisions. This is law. The moment your internal reality shifts, the external reality begins reorganizing to match the new pattern. The only delay is the time it takes for the physical world to catch up with the quantum shift that has already occurred at the level of consciousness. Understanding the universe as a responsive medium eliminates the sense of victimhood that keeps most people trapped. You are not at the mercy of circumstances. Circumstances are at the mercy of you. You are not hoping the universe will be kind to you. You are determining what kindness the universe has permission to deliver. This is both the most liberating and the most demanding truth you will ever encounter. It is liberating because it means you have absolute power over your experience. It is demanding because it means you have absolute responsibility for your experience. You cannot blame your parents, your boss, the economy, or bad luck. These are all effects. You are the cause. When you fully accept this, you stop waiting for the world to change, and you start changing the world through the precise application of mental law. The subconscious mind is the mechanism through which your thoughts alter the universe. Understanding this mechanism with precision is essential because most people misunderstand how the creative process works, and therefore fail to use it effectively. The conscious mind is the part of you that is aware right now, reading these words, analyzing ideas, making decisions. It is the tip of the iceberg, the visible portion of a much larger intelligence that operates beneath the surface. The subconscious mind is the vast underwater portion of the iceberg. It controls your bodily functions, stores your memories, runs your habitual programs, and most importantly for our purposes, serves as the interface between your individual consciousness and the universal quantum field. Murphy taught that the subconscious does not reason. It does not question. It does not evaluate whether your commands are good for you or bad for you. It simply accepts whatever you impress upon it and then works to manifest that impression in your external reality. The relationship between conscious and subconscious is like the relationship between a captain and a ship's crew. The captain gives orders. The crew executes the orders without question. If the captain orders the ship to sail toward an iceberg, the crew does not refuse. They execute the order, and the ship hits the iceberg. The captain may not have wanted to hit the iceberg. The captain may have been confused about the coordinates. The captain may have given the order accidentally or out of fear. None of this matters to the crew. They received an order and they carried it out. Your subconscious is the crew. It does not care whether your mental commands will bring you happiness or suffering. It cares only that you have given a command and it executes that command with absolute fidelity. This explains why positive thinking alone often fails. People speak affirmations with their conscious minds while their subconscious holds completely different beliefs. The conscious mind says, "I am wealthy," while the subconscious holds the pattern, "I never have enough." The captain says, "Sail east," while the crew hears "sail west," because the crew was programmed with different instructions years ago. The ship goes west, and the captain wonders why affirmations do not work. The affirmation is reaching only the conscious mind. It is not penetrating to the subconscious, where the real power of creation resides. Murphy taught that you must learn to impress the subconscious directly if you want to alter your reality. This requires bypassing the critical factor of the conscious mind and planting commands in the deeper soil where they can take root and grow into external form. The subconscious operates on the principle of acceptance. Whatever you accept as true, it manifests as reality. The word accept is crucial. You may want to be wealthy without accepting that you are wealthy. You may desire health without accepting that you are healthy. The wanting and desiring are conscious activities that have no creative power. Only acceptance programs the subconscious. Acceptance is not merely intellectual agreement. It is a deep felt sense of reality. When you truly accept something, you no longer question it, worry about it, or analyze it. It simply is. This is the state you must achieve for your mental commands to have creative power. You must move from wanting to accepting, from hoping to knowing, from wishing to being. Murphy used the term mental equivalent to describe the specific pattern held in the subconscious that corresponds to each external circumstance. Your financial mental equivalent is the set of beliefs, feelings, and expectations you hold about money at the subconscious level. Your relationship mental equivalent is the pattern you hold about love, worthiness, and connection. Your health mental equivalent is your deep assumption about your body's capacity for vitality or disease. Whatever mental equivalent you hold, that is what you experience in physical form. If you want to change any area of your life, you must change the mental equivalent. This is not done through willpower or effort. It is done through impression, through the deliberate planting of new patterns in the subconscious mind during the states when the subconscious is most receptive. The subconscious as quantum interface means that when you change your mental equivalent, you are not just changing your thoughts, you are changing the instructions you are sending into the fabric of reality itself. The subconscious is connected to what Murphy called infinite intelligence, the universal creative power that organizes matter and energy according to mental patterns. When you impress a new pattern upon your subconscious, that pattern is transmitted into the universal field. The field responds by reorganizing circumstances, synchronicities, and opportunities to match the new pattern. People appear in your life who correspond to your new frequency. Resources become available that were invisible before, solutions emerge to problems that seemed unsolvable. This is not magic. This is the lawful operation of a universe that responds to consciousness as its primary organizing principle. The protocol for impressing the subconscious is what separates those who successfully manifest from those who struggle endlessly with techniques that never produce results. Murphy identified specific states of consciousness in which the subconscious is most receptive to new impressions, and specific methods for delivering those impressions with maximum impact. The drowsy state just before sleep and just after waking is the primary window of receptivity. In this state, the conscious mind's critical factor is relaxed. Suggestions pass directly into the subconscious without the interference of doubt, analysis, or contradiction. This is why Murphy emphasized the importance of what you think about as you fall asleep. The last thoughts of the day are the commands that the subconscious works on all night. If you fall asleep worrying about your problems, you are commanding the subconscious to work on your problems, which means maintaining them. If you fall asleep feeling the reality of your fulfilled desire, you are commanding the subconscious to work on manifesting that desire while you sleep. The specific technique Murphy provided follows a precise structure. First, you must define your desire with clarity. Vague wishes produce vague results. The subconscious needs specific instructions to execute. Second, you must construct a mental scene that implies the fulfillment of your desire. This scene should be short, vivid, and emotionally charged. It should depict not the process of getting what you want, but the state of already having it. If you want a new job, you do not visualize applying for jobs or interviewing. You visualize the congratulations from a friend after you have already gotten the job. You feel the handshake, hear the words of congratulations, sense the reality of the accomplished fact. Third, You must enter the drowsy state and replay this scene repeatedly until you feel the emotional reality of it. The emotion is the key. Cold, detached visualization has little power. Visualization infused with the feeling of the wish fulfilled penetrates the subconscious and begins the process of manifestation. Murphy called this technique sleeping in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. You are not hoping for something in the future. You are accepting it as real in the present moment of your imagination. The subconscious does not know the difference between an imagined experience and a physical experience. To the subconscious, both are equally real. When you vividly imagine with feeling that your desire is fulfilled, the subconscious accepts this as fact and immediately begins reorganizing your external reality to match the internal pattern you have established. This is why imagination is more powerful than willpower. Willpower operates on the level of the conscious mind, which has limited creative power. Imagination operates on the level of the subconscious, which has unlimited creative power because it is connected to the infinite intelligence that shapes all reality. The feeling is critical and cannot be emphasized enough. Many people visualize without feeling and wonder why nothing happens. The feeling is the voltage that powers the transmission. Without feeling, your visualization is like a radio with no power source. It makes no broadcast. The universe receives nothing. But when you add feeling, when you generate the emotional sensation of having what you desire, you are energizing the visualization with creative power. The subconscious responds to feeling more than to imagery. A vague scene with intense feeling is more powerful than a detailed scene with no feeling. Murphy taught that you must conjure the specific feeling you would have if your desire were already realized. This might be relief, joy, pride, excitement, peace, or gratitude. Whatever the dominant emotion of fulfillment would be for your specific desire, that is the feeling you must generate during the visualization. The repetition element is what transforms a single visualization into a permanent impression. One session of visualization is like making a single footprint in the sand. The waves will wash it away, but repeated visualizations, performed night after night in the drowsy state, are like carving a groove in stone. The impression becomes permanent. The subconscious accepts it as part of your reality structure and works continuously to manifest it. Murphy recommended practicing this technique every night until the desire is fulfilled. Not because the universe needs multiple requests, but because repetition deepens the impression and prevents contradictory thoughts from erasing the command. Consistency is more important than intensity. A moderate visualization performed every night for 30 days is more effective than an intense visualization performed once and forgotten. The mechanics of how this works at the quantum level can be understood through the concept of probability collapse. Before observation, quantum systems exist in superposition, all possible states existing simultaneously as probability waves. The act of observation collapses the superposition into a single definite state. Your sustained visualization is a form of observation. You are observing a specific outcome with such intensity and repetition that you collapse the probability wave in the direction of that outcome. Every night you visualize the fulfilled desire, you are adding your observation to the quantum field. You are voting for a specific reality, and as your votes accumulate, the probability of that reality manifesting increases until it reaches the tipping point and becomes actual. The universe has no choice but to deliver what you have observed into existence because observation is the mechanism by which possibility becomes reality. Understanding this mechanism removes the element of mystery and reveals manifestation as a predictable, lawful process. You are not asking the universe for favors. You are operating the universe according to the principles that govern it. The universe responds to you the same way electricity responds to a properly wired circuit. Connect the wires correctly, and the light turns on, every time. Without exception, the light does not decide whether you deserve to see. The light does not evaluate your worthiness. The light turns on because you have created the conditions for it to turn on. Manifestation works the same way. Create the conditions, the clear desire, the vivid scene, the emotional feeling, the drowsy state, the repeated impression, and the manifestation occurs. every time, without exception. The failures you have experienced are not evidence that the law does not work. They are evidence that you have not yet created the correct conditions. We must now examine the fatal mistakes that sabotage your transmission and cancel your commands before the universe can execute them. The most common mistake is what Murphy called the double mind. This is the state of wanting something while simultaneously believing you cannot have it. You visualize wealth in the evening and worry about bills in the morning. You affirm health before bed and discuss your symptoms with everyone you meet. You feel the wish fulfilled during meditation and then spend the rest of the day in the feeling of lack. Murphy was adamant that the subconscious responds to your dominant mental state, not to isolated moments of positive thinking. If you spend 5 minutes visualizing abundance and 23 hours and 55 minutes thinking about scarcity, which frequency do you think the universe is receiving? The static of your fear overwhelms the signal of your desire. Your transmission is garbled. The universe cannot execute a command that is constantly contradicted by countercommands. The sabotage pattern I promised to reveal is what Murphy called the wondering state. After you place your order with the universe, after you visualize and feel and impress your desire upon the subconscious, there is an overwhelming temptation to check whether it is working. You look for evidence. You analyze your circumstances. You wonder when the manifestation will arrive. This wondering is devastating to your transmission because it implies doubt. If you truly accepted your desire as done, you would not be wondering. You would be resting in the certainty of fulfillment. The wondering state tells the subconscious that you do not actually believe your desire is real. It reopens the case that you had closed. It plants seeds of doubt in the very soil where you had planted seeds of faith. Murphy taught that after you place your mental order, you must let go completely. You must live as if the desire is already fulfilled and pay no attention to the current appearance of your circumstances. This is difficult because your circumstances have not yet changed. The physical world lags behind the mental shift. But if you react to the old circumstances with worry and doubt, you are recreating them. You are voting for the old reality even as the new reality is trying to emerge. The second fatal mistake is talking about your desires to others in ways that generate doubt or opposition. When you share your goals with people who do not understand mental law, they will often respond with skepticism, practical objections, or well-meaning advice that plants seeds of doubt in your consciousness. Even a raised eyebrow or a tone of voice can trigger your own hidden doubts and sabotage your transmission. Murphy recommended keeping your desires private until they have manifested. This is not about secrecy. It is about protecting the tender seed from being trampled before it can take root. Your desire is like a pregnancy in its earliest stages. You do not announce it to the world when conception has just occurred. You wait until the new life is secure enough to withstand the scrutiny. In the same way, you should wait until your manifestation is beginning to appear before discussing it with others. Let the evidence speak for itself. The third fatal mistake is using your willpower to force the outcome. Willpower belongs to the conscious mind, and the conscious mind has limited power to influence external reality directly. When you grit your teeth and try to make something happen through sheer force of will, you are bypassing the subconscious and trying to move matter with the tip of the iceberg instead of the vast intelligence beneath the surface. Worse, the strain of effort creates tension, and tension blocks the receptivity needed for the subconscious to accept your impression. Murphy taught that the optimal state for manifestation is relaxed certainty. You are completely sure of the outcome, not because you are going to force it to happen, but because you understand the law and you have fulfilled its conditions. Certainty without strain. Conviction without effort. This is the state that programs the subconscious and activates the creative power of the universe on your behalf. The fourth fatal mistake is watching for specific channels through which your desire must come. You visualize getting money, and then you look for the money to come through your job, or through the lottery, or through a specific person who owes you. This is a mistake because the universe has infinite channels through which to deliver your manifestation. When you specify the channel, you are limiting the universe to a single pathway. You are blocking all the other pathways through which your desire could easily flow. Murphy taught that you must focus on the end result and let the universe determine the means. Your job is to visualize having the money. The universe's job is to figure out how to get it to you. It may come through your job, or it may come through a source you never imagined. It may come directly, or it may come through a complex sequence of events that you could never have planned. Trust the intelligence that organizes galaxies to figure out how to get money into your bank account. Your job is the end. The universe handles the means. The fifth fatal mistake is setting time limits on your manifestation. You visualize your desire and then you decide it must appear by next Tuesday or the technique does not work. This time, pressure creates anxiety, and anxiety is a frequency that blocks manifestation. It also sets you up for disappointment when Tuesday arrives and the desire has not yet appeared in physical form. The quantum collapse that you have initiated through visualization does not operate according to your calendar. It operates according to the readiness of all the factors involved in delivering your desire. Sometimes this happens quickly, sometimes it takes longer. Murphy taught that time impatience is a form of doubt. If you truly knew your desire was coming, you would not be anxious about when. You would rest in certainty the way you rest in certainty that the sun will rise tomorrow. You do not check your watch every 10 minutes, wondering if the sun has forgotten. You know it is coming, and you go about your business. This is the attitude you must cultivate toward your manifestation. It is coming. The timing is not your concern. Your concern is maintaining the feeling of the wish fulfilled until it appears in physical form. The refinement techniques are what separate the masters from the beginners in the practice of mental causation. Murphy developed specific methods to deepen the impression on the subconscious and accelerate the manifestation process. The first refinement is the use of what he called the lullaby method. In the drowsy state just before sleep, instead of visualizing a scene, you repeat a single phrase that implies the fulfillment of your desire. If you want to be healthy, you might repeat, "I am perfectly healthy," or simply, "health." You repeat this phrase slowly, drowsily, feeling its meaning, until you fall asleep with the phrase still echoing in your consciousness. The drowsy state ensures the phrase bypasses the critical factor. The feeling you generate as you repeat the phrase provides the emotional voltage. This method is particularly effective for people who have difficulty visualizing or who find their minds wandering during visualization. The second refinement is the use of congratulations. Instead of visualizing the desire itself, you visualize someone congratulating you on the fulfillment of the desire. You hear their voice saying, "I am so happy for you." You see their smile, feel their handshake, sense their genuine pleasure at your good fortune. This technique is powerful because it implies not just the fulfillment of the desire, but social validation and acknowledgement. It creates a richer emotional response than visualizing the desire alone. And the subconscious responds more powerfully to scenes involving other people because social acceptance is a deep need that carries strong emotional charge. The third refinement is the use of revision. Murphy taught that you can change the past by revising your memory of events that produce negative impressions on your subconscious. If you experienced a failure, a rejection, or a humiliation, the memory of that event continues to broadcast its frequency and attract similar experiences. But if you go back into your imagination and revise the memory, changing the outcome to what you wished had happened, you plant a new impression that begins to overwrite the old one. You are not pretending the event did not happen in physical terms. You are changing the subconscious record of the event, which is the only record that has creative power. The physical event is gone. Only the memory remains, and the memory can be changed through deliberate imaginative revision. The fourth refinement is the use of physical relaxation to deepen the drowsy state. The more relaxed your body, the more receptive your subconscious becomes. Murphy recommended progressive relaxation, systematically relaxing each part of the body from feet to head before beginning visualization. This relaxation drops you into a deeper state of consciousness where impressions are accepted with less resistance. It also eliminates the physical tension that can block the flow of creative energy. Tension is the enemy of manifestation. Relaxation is the friend. The person who approaches visualization in a state of strain and effort will achieve far less than the person who approaches it in a state of deep, comfortable relaxation. The fifth refinement is the use of gratitude as a multiplier. Feeling grateful for your desire, as if it has already manifested, is one of the most powerful emotional states you can generate. Gratitude implies that you have received something. It implies that the desire is real. It implies that the universe has delivered. When you combine visualization with deep gratitude, you are telling the subconscious with absolute clarity that the desire is fulfilled. Gratitude also raises your overall frequency, making you a better receiver for all the good that the universe wants to deliver. Murphy taught that the grateful person attracts more to be grateful for, while the complaining person attracts more to complain about. Make gratitude your dominant emotional state, and you accelerate every manifestation you undertake. The proof of these principles comes not only from Murphy's documented cases, but from the convergence of modern physics, neuroscience, and psychology on the same conclusions that Murphy reached through spiritual insight. The quantum physics validation has already been discussed. The observer effect, the collapse of the wave function, the non-locality of entangled particles, all point to a universe where consciousness is fundamental rather than incidental. But additional validation comes from the neuroscience of belief and expectation. The placebo effect demonstrates that belief alone can produce physical changes in the body. Patients given sugar pills but told they are receiving powerful medication often experience the same healing as patients receiving actual drugs. The belief creates the chemistry, the expectation produces the outcome. This is exactly what Murphy taught. The subconscious does not distinguish between real and imagined. It responds to belief, and when belief is strong enough, physical matter reorganizes to conform to it. Neuroimaging studies have shown that the brain responds almost identically to imagined experiences and real experiences. When you vividly imagine performing an action, the same neural pathways activate as when you physically perform the action. Athletes use visualization to improve performance because the brain cannot tell the difference between imagined practice and real practice. This validates Murphy's claim that the subconscious accepts imagined experience as real. When you visualize your desire is fulfilled, your brain is recording it as an actual memory. And this memory influences your expectations, your behaviors, and the signals you broadcast to the quantum field. Consider the case Murphy documented of the businessman who was facing bankruptcy. Every avenue of help had closed. The banks would not lend. The investors would not invest. The customers were disappearing. By all external measures, the situation was hopeless. But this man had studied mental law, and he understood that his external circumstances were the solidified form of his past mental states. He had been visualizing failure, expecting failure, and failure was what the universe delivered. He decided to apply Murphy's technique with complete commitment. Every night before sleep, he visualized a specific scene. He saw himself sitting at his desk, looking at his bank statement and feeling overwhelming relief and gratitude at the healthy balance. He made the scene vivid. He felt the paper in his hands. He saw the numbers on the statement. He felt the wave of relief washing over him. He did this every night for 3 weeks. Nothing changed externally at first. The same problems persisted. The same threats loomed. But he maintained his visualization without wavering, without analyzing, without checking for results. In the 4th week, a man he had not spoken to in 10 years called him out of the blue. This man had recently come into an inheritance and was looking for business opportunities. Within 2 weeks, the inheritance money was invested in the failing business. Within 6 months, the business had not only recovered, but expanded beyond its previous size. The businessman had not done anything differently in the physical world. He had not networked more aggressively or worked longer hours. He had changed his mental broadcast, and the universe responded by delivering the exact solution through a channel he could never have predicted or planned. This is the law of mental causation in action. The external world reorganized to match the new internal pattern. Murphy documented dozens of similar cases. A woman who visualized receiving a proposal from a specific man and received it within 3 months. A man who visualized winning a legal case that his lawyer said was hopeless and won it. A student who visualized receiving top grades and did. A patient who visualized perfect health and recovered from an illness doctors said was incurable. In each case, the pattern was the same. clear desire, vivid visualization in the drowsy state, feeling of the wish fulfilled, consistent practice, complete detachment from results, and then the manifestation appearing through channels that could not have been planned or predicted. The critics who dismiss these cases as coincidence have never seriously studied the mechanism Murphy described. They assume that because they cannot see the connection between thought and matter, no connection exists. But the quantum physics is clear. Consciousness influences physical reality at the subatomic level. The neuroscience is clear. The brain responds to imagination as if it were real. The psychology is clear. Expectation shapes perception and behavior in ways that create self-fulfilling prophecies. Murphy simply synthesized these findings before they were discovered by mainstream science and provided a practical method for applying them to transform your life. The identity shift is where the teaching moves from technique to transformation. Murphy understood that lasting change requires not just different thoughts, but a different sense of self. You can visualize wealth every night, but if you fundamentally see yourself as a poor person, your visualizations will be fighting against your identity, and identity always wins. The subconscious is designed to maintain consistency with who you believe yourself to be. If you believe you are a person who struggles, the subconscious will create struggles to confirm your self-concept. If you believe you are a person who succeeds, the subconscious will create successes. Techniques work within the container of identity. If you want unlimited results, you must expand the container. Murphy taught that you must begin to see yourself not as a victim of the universe, but as an operator of the universe. You are not a creature hoping for crumbs from a cosmic table. You are a creator who sets the table and decides what will be served. This is not arrogance. It is accuracy. You are an expression of the same infinite intelligence that creates galaxies. The power that shapes stars is the power that shapes your thoughts. The difference is that the power in you is conscious. It can be directed, it can be focused. The rest of the universe creates automatically according to pattern. You create deliberately according to choice. This makes you the most powerful force in existence, a conscious creator in a universe of unconscious creation. The shift from victim to creator changes everything about how you relate to your circumstances. The victim asks, "Why is this happening to me?" The creator asks, "What did I think to create this, and what will I think to create something different?" The creator examines internal patterns. The victim hopes for rescue. The creator takes responsibility for change. This shift is not about self-blame. It is about self-empowerment. If you created your current circumstances through unconscious mental patterns, you can create new circumstances through conscious mental patterns. The power that made the problem is the power that makes the solution. Nothing external needs to change for you to begin transforming your reality. The change begins and ends in your own consciousness. Murphy taught that you must speak to yourself differently if you want to become a different person. The words you use in your internal dialogue program your subconscious and define your identity. If you constantly say, "I can never catch a break," you are programming an identity of someone who does not catch breaks. If you say, "I always struggle with money," you are programming an identity of someone who struggles with money. These statements feel like descriptions of reality, but they are actually commands. They tell the subconscious who you are, and the subconscious creates experiences that confirm this identity. Murphy recommended replacing all limiting self-statements with their opposites. Instead of, "I can never catch a break," say, "Good things always come to me." Instead of, "I struggle with money," say, "Money flows to me easily." These are not lies. They are commands. They are the new identity you are choosing to impress upon your subconscious. The phrase, "I am," is the most powerful creative statement you can make because it defines identity directly. Whatever follows "I am" becomes a command to the subconscious about who you are. I am poor creates poverty. I am sick creates sickness. I am unlucky creates misfortune. But I am wealthy creates wealth. I am healthy creates health. I am blessed creates blessing. Murphy taught that you must guard your "I am" statements with absolute vigilance. Never attach "I am" to anything you do not want to experience. Never claim ownership of conditions you want to change. Your words are not casual expressions. They are creative decrees. They are the molds into which the universal substance flows to take shape in your life. The synthesis brings together everything we have learned into a unified understanding of your creative power. You live in a universe that is not solid but quantum, not fixed but responsive, not separate from you but an extension of your consciousness. Your thoughts are not passive reflections but active broadcasts that the universe receives and executes. Your subconscious mind is the interface between your individual consciousness and the infinite creative power that shapes all reality. When you impress a pattern upon your subconscious through vivid imagination infused with feeling in the drowsy state, you are sending a command into the fabric of existence. The universe responds to this command by reorganizing circumstances, people, and opportunities to match the pattern you have impressed. This is not faith. This is law. It operates with the same reliability as electricity, gravity, or any other natural force. The mistakes that have caused your past failures are now clear. The double-lined that once, while doubting. The wondering state that checks for results instead of resting in certainty. The talking that invites doubt from others. The willpower that strains instead of the certainty that relaxes. The specific channels that limit the universe's options. The time pressures that create anxiety. Each of these mistakes can be corrected through understanding and practice. You now know what to do and what to avoid. The techniques are precise. Visualize your desire as fulfilled. Generate the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Enter the drowsy state. Repeat until the impression is permanent. Let go of results. Live from the end. The identity shift is what makes the techniques permanent. You are not a person who uses manifestation techniques. You are a conscious creator who operates the universe according to its own laws. This is your fundamental nature. You have always been creating. The only difference now is that you are creating consciously, deliberately, and with the precision that comes from understanding. The victim you used to be is a fiction, a case of mistaken identity that you have now corrected. You are not at the mercy of circumstances. Circumstances are at the mercy of you. You are not hoping the universe will cooperate. You are directing the universe with the authority of someone who knows the law. The responsibility is yours and yours alone. No one can create your life for you. No one can visualize your desires with your feeling. No one can impress your subconscious with your patterns. This is solitary work. It happens in the privacy of your own consciousness, in the moments before sleep, in the quiet of your own mind. But the results are public. The results show up in your bank account, your relationships, your health, your opportunities. The private work produces public transformation, and the world, seeing your external circumstances change, will call it luck or coincidence or miracle. But you will know the truth. You will know that you created it through the precise application of mental law. The challenge I give you now is the Mind Mastery Challenge. For the next 7 days, you will practice the transmission protocol every single night before sleep. You will define one specific desire with clarity. You will construct a mental scene that implies the fulfillment of that desire. You will enter the drowsy state and replay the scene until you feel the emotional reality of fulfillment. You will repeat this every night for 7 nights without checking for results, without analyzing progress, without telling anyone what you are doing. On the 8th day, you will look at your circumstances and note any changes, any synchronicities, any unexpected developments. This is your proof. Not my words, not Murphy's teachings. Your direct experience of the law in operation. The universe is waiting for your command. It has been waiting your entire life. It has been executing your unconscious commands with perfect fidelity, which is why your life looks the way it does. Now you will give conscious commands. Now you will direct the creative power deliberately. Now you will become the author of your experience instead of the character in a story written by your fears. The power is yours. It has always been yours. The only question is whether you will use it. Type in the comments below, "I am the creator of my reality." This is your declaration. This is your commitment. This is your first conscious command. Subscribe to this channel because the architecture of sacred understanding requires every piece. Each video builds on the last. Miss one and the structure is incomplete. Stay with me, and together we will master the laws that govern existence itself. The frequency principle is the deeper mechanism that governs how your consciousness interacts with the quantum field. Murphy taught that thoughts are not just mental events. They are vibrations. They are frequencies that radiate outward from your consciousness like ripples from a stone dropped in water. And the universe, being a frequency-responsive medium, matches your broadcast with experiences that vibrate at the same rate. This is why people who worry constantly attract more things to worry about. Their worry frequency attracts worry-worthy circumstances. This is why people who feel grateful constantly attract more things to be grateful for. Their gratitude frequency attracts gratitude-worthy circumstances. The universe is not punishing or rewarding. It is matching. It is reflecting back to you the frequency you are transmitting. Understanding frequency changes how you approach manifestation. You realize that the specific content of your thoughts matters less than the emotional frequency those thoughts generate. You could think about money all day, but if your thoughts about money are infused with worry, fear, and lack, you are broadcasting a poverty frequency no matter how often you mention money. Conversely, you could think about something entirely unrelated to money, but if your thoughts generate feelings of abundance, security, and overflow, you are broadcasting a wealth frequency that will attract financial resources. The feeling is the frequency. The emotion is the signal. This is why Murphy emphasized feeling over imagery. You can have the most detailed visualization in the world, but if it does not generate the feeling of the wish fulfilled, it broadcasts nothing to the universe. The tuning analogy makes this concrete. Your consciousness is like a radio that can be tuned to any frequency on the dial. There are infinite stations broadcasting simultaneously: the wealth station, the poverty station, the love station, the loneliness station, the health station, the sickness station. Each station broadcasts continuously. The question is not whether abundance exists. Abundance is always broadcasting. The question is whether you are tuned to receive it. If your dial is set to the poverty frequency, you receive poverty. You do not hear the abundance broadcast even though it is filling the air around you. When you shift your frequency, when you adjust your emotional dial through feeling and assumption, you suddenly begin receiving a different broadcast. The abundance was always there. You simply were not tuned to it. The practical application of frequency awareness is to become conscious of your emotional state throughout the day, not just during meditation or visualization sessions. Your manifestation is not determined by the 5 minutes you spend visualizing before sleep. It is determined by the other 23 hours and 55 minutes. If you visualize wealth for 5 minutes and then spend the rest of the day in anxiety about bills, which frequency dominates? The anxiety frequency, because it occupies more time and more emotional intensity. Murphy taught that you must learn to maintain the feeling of the wish fulfilled throughout your daily activities. This does not mean walking around in a trance of visualization. It means cultivating a background emotional state that matches what you are trying to create. If you want abundance, cultivate feelings of abundance while you work, while you drive, while you eat. Make abundance your emotional home base. The frequency matching principle also explains why like attracts like in human relationships and opportunities. You naturally attract people who are vibrating at your frequency. If you are broadcasting insecurity, you attract people who trigger your insecurity or who are themselves insecure. If you are broadcasting confidence, you attract people who respect confidence or who are themselves confident. Opportunities work the same way. The business opportunity that could change your life will not appear to you if you are broadcasting a frequency of unworthiness. It will pass right by you, invisible, because you are not tuned to the channel where it is being broadcast. But shift your frequency to worthiness and abundance, and suddenly opportunities that were always there become visible to you. They were broadcasting all along. You just were not tuned to receive them. This understanding reveals why some people seem lucky while others seem cursed. The lucky person is not receiving special treatment from the universe. They are simply broadcasting a frequency that matches fortunate circumstances. They expect good things, feel good most of the time, and assume that life will work out in their favor. This frequency attracts experiences that confirm their expectation. The cursed person is not being punished by the universe. They are broadcasting a frequency that matches unfortunate circumstances. They expect problems, feel anxious most of the time, and assume that life is difficult and unfair. This frequency attracts experiences that confirm their expectation. Neither luck nor curse is real. Only frequency is real, and frequency is something you can change through deliberate practice. The compounding effect of consciousness is another principle that Murphy understood deeply. Your thoughts do not exist in isolation. Each thought influences the next thought. Each feeling creates the conditions for the next feeling. Over time, your mental patterns create momentum that makes certain types of thoughts easier and other types harder. If you spend years thinking poverty thoughts, poverty thinking becomes a groove, a habit, a default pathway that your consciousness returns to automatically. Each poverty thought makes the next poverty thought more likely. The groove deepens. The pattern solidifies. This is why people find it so hard to change their circumstances. They are fighting against years of accumulated mental momentum. But the compounding effect works in reverse as well. Once you begin thinking abundance thoughts, each abundance thought makes the next one easier. The new groove begins to form. At first it requires effort to think abundantly when your whole life has been about lack. But as you persist, as you keep choosing the abundance thought over the poverty thought, the balance begins to shift. The abundance groove deepens while the poverty groove begins to fill in from disuse. Eventually, abundance thinking becomes your new default. It happens automatically. You catch yourself feeling wealthy without trying. This is the tipping point that Murphy described. Once you reach it, manifestation becomes effortless because you are no longer fighting your own momentum. You are riding it. The implication for practice is clear. Consistency matters more than intensity. A moderate abundance thought held consistently over months will produce more results than an intense visualization performed once and then abandoned. You are building mental infrastructure. You are laying down neural pathways. You are training your consciousness to default to a new frequency. This takes time and repetition, but once the infrastructure is built, it works automatically. Your subconscious broadcasts the new frequency without your conscious effort. The universe receives the new signal continuously, and your external circumstances begin shifting to match the new pattern. Murphy also taught the principle of assumption, which is perhaps his most powerful contribution to the science of mind. Most people try to manifest by wanting or desiring or hoping. They say, "I want to be wealthy." But wanting implies lack. If you had it, you would not be wanting it. The act of wanting broadcasts the frequency of not having. This is why so many people who practice affirmations and visualizations see no results. They are affirming while wanting, visualizing while hoping, which cancels the power of the practice. The solution is to move from wanting to assuming. Instead of wanting wealth, you assume wealth. You proceed as if wealth were already your reality. You think, feel, and act from the position of someone who is already wealthy. Assumption is not pretending. It is not lying to yourself about your bank balance. Assumption is an internal shift in which you no longer see wealth as something you need to acquire, but as something you already are. You are not trying to become wealthy. You are expressing the wealth that is your true nature. This subtle shift changes everything about your transmission. Instead of broadcasting, "I want this thing I do not have," you are broadcasting, "I am this thing expressing itself." The first broadcast attracts more wanting. The second broadcast attracts more being. Murphy called this living from the end. You do not live toward your goal. You live from your goal. You occupy the state of the wish fulfilled before the wish has manifested in physical form. The technique Murphy provided for assumption is to ask yourself a simple question. How would I think, feel, and act if my desire were already fulfilled? If you wanted to be wealthy, how would a wealthy person think about money? They would not worry about it. They would not check their bank balance obsessively. They would not calculate every purchase. They would think about money casually, easily, as something that is always available. How would they feel? Secure, relaxed, generous, free. How would they act? They would spend without anxiety. They would tip generously. They would give to causes they believe in. They would not operate from fear of lack. Your task is to begin thinking, feeling, and acting this way now, before the money appears. This assumption creates the frequency that attracts the money. The paradox is that you must feel wealthy before you become wealthy. You must feel healthy before you become healthy. You must feel loved before you become loved. The feeling creates the condition, not the other way around. Most people have it backwards. They think they will feel wealthy once they have money. But the feeling of lack they broadcast while waiting for money repels the money. The person who cracks the code understands that the feeling must come first. The feeling is the cause. The physical manifestation is the effect. When you generate the feeling now, through assumption, through imagination, through deliberate choice, you set the cause in motion. The effect must follow. This is law. Assumption also protects you from the fatal mistake of waiting. The person who is waiting for their manifestation is not in the state of the wish fulfilled. They are in the state of expectation, which implies that the thing has not yet arrived. Every moment of waiting broadcasts the frequency of absence. Every check for results broadcasts the frequency of doubt. But the person who has assumed their desire to be real does not wait. Why would they wait for something they already have? They go about their life in the certainty of possession. This certainty is the frequency that collapses the quantum wave in the direction of physical manifestation. The bridge of incidence is how Murphy described the mechanism by which assumption becomes physical reality. When you assume a state, the universe does not instantly materialize your desire out of thin air. Instead, it begins arranging a series of events, meetings, conversations, and opportunities that lead you naturally to the physical fulfillment of what you have assumed. Murphy called this the bridge of incidence because it is a series of steps connecting where you are to where your assumption leads. You do not have to plan these steps. You do not have to know what they are. You only have to maintain your assumption, and the bridge builds itself before you. Consider someone who assumes they have their ideal job. They do not know how they will get this job. They do not know who will hire them or what sequence of events will lead there, but they assume it is done. They feel employed in the perfect position. They think as someone who loves their work. They act as someone who is valued and well compensated. Then the bridge begins forming. Maybe a friend mentions a company that is hiring. Maybe a recruiter contacts them out of nowhere. Maybe a chance conversation at a coffee shop leads to a referral. Each of these incidents is part of the bridge. The person who maintains their assumption recognizes these incidents as guidance and follows them. The person who doubts, who checks their email obsessively for responses, who worries that it is taking too long, does not recognize the incidents because they are too busy looking in the wrong direction. Murphy taught that your only job is the assumption. The universe handles the bridge. You do not have to figure out how your desire will manifest. You do not have to strategize or plan or force. You assume, and then you remain faithful to the assumption as incidents begin appearing. You follow the guidance that feels natural, that feels like an obvious next step, that feels like the path opening before you. This is cooperation with the creative process. This is allowing the infinite intelligence to solve the problem of how, while you maintain the reality of what. The concept of everyone is yourself pushed out is one of Murphy's most profound teachings and one of the most difficult to accept. He taught that the people in your life are not independent agents making autonomous decisions. They are expressions of your own consciousness, pushed out into apparent objectivity. The way they treat you reflects your assumptions about them and about yourself. If you assume you are unworthy of respect, people will disrespect you. If you assume you are valued and important, people will value and respect you. They are not choosing to do this consciously. They are responding to your frequency, acting out the script that your assumptions have written for them. This principle explains why the same person can be treated completely differently by different people. One person finds their boss supportive and encouraging. Another person finds the same boss critical and dismissive. The boss has not changed. The assumptions about the boss have changed. Each person is experiencing their own assumptions reflected back through the medium of the boss's behavior. Murphy would say they are not experiencing the same boss at all. They are each experiencing their assumptions about bosses, about authority, about their own worthiness, projected onto this convenient screen called the boss. The practical application of this principle is that when you want to change how someone treats you, you do not try to change them. You change your assumptions about them. You assume they are supportive, loving, generous, helpful. You maintain this assumption regardless of their current behavior. You refuse to react to appearances that contradict your assumption, and over time their behavior shifts to match your new assumption. They have no choice. They are pushed out from your consciousness. When your consciousness changes, what is pushed out must change as well. This does not mean you are controlling other people. They have their own consciousness, their own assumptions, their own creative power. But in your reality, in the world you experience, they play the roles your assumptions assign them. You are not responsible for their entire existence. You are responsible for the version of them that appears in your experience, and that version is always a reflection of you. When you understand this, you stop blaming others for how they treat you. You examine your own assumptions and correct them. You become the author of your relationships, rather than the victim of other people's choices. Murphy illustrated this principle with a story of a woman who was convinced her husband did not love her. She complained to Murphy about his coldness, his distance, his failure to show affection. Murphy asked her what she thought about when she looked at her husband. She admitted she constantly rehearsed his failures, his shortcomings, his past neglect. She thought about him as cold and distant because that was how she experienced him. Murphy told her she had the causation backwards. Her thoughts were creating his behavior. She was pushing him out from her consciousness as a cold and distant man, and that was the man who appeared in her experience. Murphy gave her a new practice. She was to assume her husband loved her deeply and express that love constantly. She was to imagine hearing him say words of affection. She was to feel cherished and adored when she looked at him, regardless of his actual behavior. She followed Murphy's instructions with dedication. Within 3 weeks, her husband began changing. He brought her flowers without occasion. He spoke words of love he had never spoken before. He became affectionate and attentive. She had not done anything to change him directly. She had changed her assumptions about him, and he, being her consciousness pushed out, changed to match her new assumptions. The role of feeling in manifestation must be explored in even greater depth because it is the element that most people miss entirely. Murphy was emphatic that feeling is the secret, not visualization alone, not affirmation alone. Feeling. The subconscious does not respond to words or images in isolation. It responds to the emotional charge those words and images carry. A cold, detached affirmation makes no impression. A vivid visualization performed without feeling produces no result, but a single moment of genuine feeling can change everything. What is the feeling of the wish fulfilled? It is the specific emotional signature you would experience if your desire were already manifest. For a desire of wealth, it might be the feeling of security, of freedom, of generosity, of ease. For a desire of health, it might be the feeling of vitality, of strength, of energy, of aliveness. For a desire of love, it might be the feeling of warmth, of connection, of being cherished, of belonging. Each desire has its own emotional signature, its own feeling tone. Your job is to identify this feeling and then generate it deliberately, independent of external circumstances. Generating feeling independent of circumstances is the advanced practice that separates masters from beginners. Beginners need the circumstances to feel the feeling. They wait for money to feel secure. They wait for the relationship to feel loved. They wait for the clean bill of health to feel vital. But masters understand that the feeling must come first. They generate security in their consciousness and watch as money flows to match the frequency. They generate love in their consciousness and watch as relationships blossom to express that love. They generate vitality in their consciousness and watch as the body reorganizes to manifest that vitality. Murphy provided techniques for generating feeling. One is to remember a time when you experienced the feeling naturally. If you want to feel wealthy, remember a moment when you felt abundant, even if it was fleeting, even if it was unrelated to money. Maybe you felt abundant watching the sunset, or holding a newborn, or receiving unexpected kindness. That feeling of abundance is the same frequency regardless of what triggered it. Once you access the feeling through memory, you hold it. You amplify it. You maintain it while you visualize your desired outcome. Now your visualization is charged with real emotional power. Another technique is to act as if. If you want to feel confident, act confident. Stand the way a confident person stands. Walk the way a confident person walks. Speak the way a confident person speaks. The body and mind are not separate. Changing your physiology changes your psychology. When you act confident, you begin to feel confident. When you feel confident, you broadcast confidence. When you broadcast confidence, you attract circumstances that justify confidence. The acting is not deception. It is priming. It is using the body as a tool to generate the feeling that will create the reality. The most powerful feeling technique Murphy taught was gratitude in advance. Feel grateful for your desire as if you have already received it. Do not say, "I will be grateful when it arrives." Say, "I am grateful that it is mine." This gratitude is powerful because it assumes possession. You cannot be grateful for something you do not have. The very act of feeling gratitude implies that the thing is yours. When you flood your consciousness with gratitude for your fulfilled desire, you are broadcasting the most powerful frequency of all. Gratitude is the frequency of having. Gratitude is the opposite of wanting. And gratitude attracts more to be grateful for with astonishing speed. The obstacles to manifestation are important to understand because they explain why so many people struggle despite knowing the techniques. The first obstacle is divided intention. You consciously desire wealth, but subconsciously believe you do not deserve it. You consciously desire love, but subconsciously fear intimacy. These subconscious counterintentions sabotage your conscious efforts. The solution is to uncover and revise the subconscious beliefs through techniques like Murphy's revision, which we discussed earlier. You go back to the experiences that created the limiting beliefs and revise them in imagination, planting new impressions that support rather than contradict your conscious desires. The second obstacle is urgency and desperation. When you need something urgently, you broadcast the frequency of lack and desperation. The universe receives this frequency and delivers more lack and more circumstances that trigger desperation. The solution is paradoxical. You must want your desire without needing it. You must hold it lightly, with the confidence that it is coming, but without the grasping energy that repels it. Murphy taught that the relaxed, confident expectation attracts, while the tense, desperate need repels. Cultivate detachment. Know that your desire is coming and release any anxiety about when or how. The third obstacle is giving attention to the opposite of your desire. You want wealth, but you read articles about economic collapse. You want health, but you research every possible disease. You want love, but you watch shows about relationships failing. Every moment of attention on the opposite of your desire is a vote for that opposite. It is a command to the subconscious to create more of what you are focused on. Murphy taught that you must guard your attention with absolute vigilance. Do not allow your mind to dwell on anything you do not want to experience. This is not denial of problems. This is deliberate focus on solutions. This is choosing where your creative power will be directed. The fourth obstacle is speaking your desire out of existence. You visualize success at night and then complain about your failures during the day. You affirm abundance in meditation and then discuss your money problems with friends. Your words have creative power. They impress the subconscious just as visualization does. If your words contradict your visualizations, you are sending mixed signals. The subconscious receives conflicting commands and produces confused results. Murphy taught that you must bring your speech into alignment with your vision. Speak only what you want to create. Refuse to give voice to limitations you want to transcend. This requires discipline, but it amplifies the power of your practice exponentially. The fifth obstacle is checking for results. You visualize for 3 nights and then spend the 4th day looking for evidence that it is working. This checking implies doubt. If you truly believed your desire was manifesting, you would not need to check. You would know. The checking broadcasts the frequency of uncertainty and slows or stops the manifestation. Murphy taught that after you place your mental order, you must let it go completely. Act as if it is done. Do not dig up the seed to see if it is growing. Trust the process. Trust the law. The manifestation will appear in its own timing through its own channels. Your job is to maintain the feeling of the wish fulfilled, not to monitor the universe's progress. The scientific validation of Murphy's teachings continues to accumulate as research catches up with what he intuited decades ago. Studies in psychoneuroimmunology have shown that mental states directly affect immune function. Optimistic people have stronger immune responses than pessimistic people. People who feel loved and connected have better health outcomes than people who feel isolated. The mind is not separate from the body. The thoughts you think become the chemistry you secrete, which becomes the health you experience. Murphy's claim that thoughts create physical conditions is now supported by peer-reviewed research in multiple disciplines. Studies in neuroplasticity have shown that the brain changes in response to thought patterns. What you think repeatedly becomes wired into your neural structure. Habitual thoughts become default pathways. This means that mental practice, including visualization, actually restructures the brain. When you visualize performing an action repeatedly, your brain develops the same neural patterns as if you had physically practiced. Athletes, musicians, and surgeons use visualization to improve performance because the brain cannot distinguish between vivid imagination and physical experience. This is precisely what Murphy taught about the subconscious accepting imagined experience as real. Studies in epigenetics have shown that gene expression is influenced by mental and emotional states. Your genes are not your destiny. How those genes express depends in part on the signals sent by your thoughts and feelings. Chronic stress activates genes associated with inflammation and disease. Chronic positivity activates genes associated with health and longevity. You are literally reprogramming your DNA through your habitual mental states. Murphy could not have known the mechanisms involved, but his claim that the mind controls the body down to the cellular level is now a scientific fact. The quantum physics validation is perhaps the most profound. The observer effect is not a fringe theory. It is mainstream physics. The implications that consciousness is fundamental to reality, that observation determines which quantum possibility becomes actual, these are not metaphysical speculations. They are conclusions that the data demands. Murphy simply followed these implications to their logical conclusion. If consciousness determines reality at the quantum level, and your thoughts are expressions of consciousness, then your thoughts determine your reality. The chain of reasoning is valid. The conclusion is sound. And the practical methods Murphy developed to apply this conclusion have been producing results for millions of people for nearly a century. The evidence from human history also supports Murphy's teachings. Every major achievement in human civilization was first an imagination before it became a reality. The airplane existed in the Wright brothers' minds before it existed in the physical world. The light bulb existed in Edison's imagination before it illuminated a room. The internet was a vision before it was a network. Every building you see was first an architect's dream. Every business was first an entrepreneur's idea. Every relationship was first a desire in someone's heart. The movement from imagination to physical reality is the fundamental creative process of the universe. Murphy simply made this process conscious and gave you a method to accelerate it. Consider also the evidence of self-fulfilling prophecies, which have been studied extensively in psychology. When teachers are told that certain students are gifted, even if those students were randomly selected, those students perform better. The teacher's expectation creates a reality that matches the expectation. When doctors tell patients they will recover, those patients recover at higher rates than patients given neutral or negative prognoses. The expectation, the belief, the assumption, becomes the reality. This is not mysterious. This is the mechanism Murphy described operating at the social and interpersonal level. Expectations broadcast frequencies. Frequencies attract matching circumstances. The person who expects success creates the conditions for success through their own behavior and through the responses they evoke in others. The anecdote of the architect illustrates the application of these principles in a practical situation. Murphy documented the case of an architect who had been struggling to win a major commission. He had competed for several prestigious projects and lost every time. His portfolio was excellent. His designs were innovative, but somehow the commission always went to someone else. He came to Murphy in frustration, ready to give up on his dream of designing significant buildings. Murphy listened to his story and then asked a simple question. When you compete for these commissions, do you see yourself winning or do you see yourself losing? The architect admitted that he always worried about losing. He would submit his proposal and then spend weeks imagining the rejection letter, preparing himself for disappointment, rehearsing his response to failure. Murphy explained that he was broadcasting the frequency of rejection. His worry was not protecting him from disappointment. His worry was creating the disappointment. He was visualizing rejection with great intensity and emotional charge, and the universe was delivering what he visualized. Murphy gave him a new practice. Before the next competition, he was to visualize receiving the commission. He was to construct a specific scene. The client calling him with the good news, congratulating him, telling him the commission was his. He was to replay this scene every night before sleep, feeling the joy, the relief, the pride of winning. And during the day, he was not to think about the competition at all. He was to assume it was already won and focus on other things. The architect followed Murphy's instructions. He visualized receiving the good news every night for 3 weeks. He felt the emotional reality of winning. He refused to entertain thoughts of rejection. When the worry arose, he replaced it immediately with the image of the phone call announcing his success. And then one morning the phone rang. It was the client. The commission was his. The architect later told Murphy that the call was almost exactly as he had imagined it. The words were similar. The feeling was exactly the same. He had visualized the outcome into existence. But the story does not end there. The architect continued applying Murphy's methods throughout his career. He won commission after commission, becoming one of the most successful architects in his region. He told Murphy that the success was not because he became a better architect. His skills were the same. The success was because he stopped broadcasting failure and started broadcasting success. He stopped competing and started assuming. He stopped worrying and started creating. The shift was entirely internal, but the external results were dramatic. The synthesis of all these teachings brings us to the final understanding of your creative power. You are not a victim of the universe. You are a creator within the universe. Your consciousness is not separate from reality. Your consciousness shapes reality. Every thought you think collapses quantum possibilities into specific outcomes. Every feeling you feel broadcasts a frequency that the universe must match. Every assumption you maintain becomes the mold into which physical experience flows. You have always had this power. You have always been using this power. The only difference between your past and your future is awareness. Now you know what you are. Now you know how it works. Now you can direct the process consciously. The power of creation is not something you need to acquire. It is something you need to acknowledge. It is already yours. It was always yours. You were born with it. It is as natural to you as breathing. You no more need to learn how to create than a fish needs to learn how to swim. What you need is to stop swimming in the wrong direction. What you need is to stop creating by default and start creating by design. What you need is to take the wheel of your own consciousness and steer toward the life you actually want. Murphy's gift to you is the method, the drowsy state for bypassing the critical factor, the vivid scene for impressing the subconscious, the feeling of the wish fulfilled for charging the visualization with creative power, the assumption for shifting from wanting to having, the letting go for avoiding the sabotage of checking. Each of these elements is essential. Each works together with the others to create a complete system of conscious creation. Follow the method and you will transform your reality. This is not a promise based on faith. This is a prediction based on law. The empowerment that flows from this understanding is unlimited. You are not bound by your past. Your past was created by your past consciousness, and your consciousness can change in an instant. You are not bound by your circumstances. Your circumstances are effects, and effects change when causes change. You are not bound by other people's opinions, by economic conditions, by your education level, by your family background, or by any other external factor. All of these are neutral conditions that can support any outcome depending on the consciousness brought to them. When you shift your consciousness, when you assume a new state, when you broadcast a new frequency, the external factors reorganize to support your new creation. There are no exceptions to this law. It works for everyone, always, without fail. The only apparent failures are failures of application, not failures of the law. Someone who claims the law does not work has not applied it correctly. They have wanted instead of assumed. They have hoped instead of felt. They have checked instead of released. They have spoken their doubts instead of their desires. The law operates perfectly. Human application is what varies. When you apply the law correctly, holding the feeling of the wish fulfilled, maintaining the assumption without wavering, letting go of how and when, the results come with the certainty of sunrise. This is Murphy's promise, validated by countless case studies and by the converging evidence of quantum physics, neuroscience, and psychology. The final mastery comes when you no longer practice techniques at all, when assumption becomes your natural state, when feeling the wish fulfilled is how you automatically respond to desire, when living from the end is simply how you live. At this level, manifestation is effortless because you are no longer trying to create. You are simply being what you are, a creator. The techniques are training wheels that help you develop the consciousness of creation, but eventually you no longer need the training wheels. You ride the bicycle of creation with natural balance. This is the state Murphy called the operant power, where your consciousness shapes reality automatically, continuously, and with increasing precision as your faith deepens. The challenge before you now is simple but demanding. Will you apply what you have learned? Will you practice the methods with consistency and faith? Will you maintain your assumption when circumstances tempt you to doubt? Will you feel the wish fulfilled even when evidence suggests otherwise? Will you let go of control and trust the bridge of incidents to form before you? These are the questions that separate those who transform from those who merely learn. Knowledge is potential power. Applied knowledge is actual power. You now have the knowledge. The application is up to you. Type in the comments below, "I create my reality." This is your second declaration in this video. It is also a command to your subconscious. You are not describing what you do. You are impressing upon the deep mind the identity you are assuming. When you type these words, you are participating in your own transformation. You are moving from passive watching to active creation. Subscribe to this channel if you have not already, because this teaching is not complete. There is more to learn, more to practice, more to master. Every video on sacred logic builds on the others. Together they form a complete architecture of conscious creation. Miss one piece and the structure is incomplete. Your mind alters the universe. This is not metaphor. This is physics. This is the actual mechanism by which your thoughts become things. The atoms around you are waiting for your observation to determine their state. The quantum field is waiting for your impression to collapse into form. The infinite intelligence is waiting for your command to execute. You have been the creator all along. Now you know it. Now you can use it. Now everything changes. Not because the universe has changed, because you have changed. And when you change, the universe you experience must change with you. This is the law. This is the promise. This is the truth that sets you free from every limitation you have ever accepted. The moment of creation is always now, not tomorrow, not when conditions are right, not after you finish reading this. Now, right now, you can assume a new state. Right now, you can feel the wish fulfilled. Right now, you can begin broadcasting a new frequency. The universe does not wait. It responds instantly to your transmission. The delay you perceive is not hesitation from the universe. It is the time required for the physical world to reorganize around your new pattern. But the creation itself happens the moment you assume the new state. You are not waiting to become a creator. You are already creating. The question is simply what you will choose to create. Go now with the knowledge that you are powerful beyond measure. Go with the certainty that your thoughts are things in the making. Go with the faith that the universe is on your side because the universe is you extended into form. Go with the commitment to practice these methods until they become second nature. And go with the understanding that the life you desire is not distant or difficult. It is as close as your next thought, as available as your next feeling, as certain as the next assumption you choose to hold. The universe is listening. The universe is responding. The universe is waiting for your command. Remember the core principles that Murphy taught. The universe is not solid but quantum. It is not fixed but responsive. It responds to consciousness as its primary organizing principle. Your subconscious mind is the interface between your individual awareness and the infinite creative power. When you impress a pattern upon your subconscious, that pattern is transmitted into the field and must manifest as corresponding circumstances. The drowsy state is your window of access. The vivid scene is your method of impression. The feeling is your creative voltage. The assumption is your shift from wanting to having. The release is your trust in the process. Remember the mistakes that sabotage manifestation, the double mind that wants while doubting, the wondering state that checks for results, the talking that invites opposition, the forcing that creates strain, the specific channels that limit possibilities, the time pressure that generates anxiety. Each of these mistakes breaks the creative circuit. Avoid them, and your manifestations will flow with remarkable ease. Remember that everyone is yourself pushed out. The people in your experience are playing roles assigned by your assumptions. Change your assumptions about them, and their behavior must change. You are not a victim of how others treat you. You are the author of your relationships through the power of your consciousness. Remember the frequency principle. You are always broadcasting. The universe is always matching your broadcast with corresponding circumstances. The feeling is the frequency. Maintain the feeling of the wish fulfilled, and the universe has no choice but to deliver the physical equivalent. Remember that you have always been creating. The life you have now is the evidence of your past mental broadcasts. You created it unconsciously. Now you will create consciously. The power is the same. Only the awareness is different, and that awareness changes everything. The path before you is clear. Practice the methods Murphy provided. Enter the drowsy state each night. Construct your scene of fulfilled desire. Generate the feeling with intensity and conviction. Repeat until the impression is permanent. Let go of results, live from the end. Watch as the bridge of incidents forms before you. Follow the guidance that appears. Trust the process. Trust the law. Trust yourself. Murphy spent his entire life teaching these principles because he knew the suffering that comes from ignorance of mental law. He saw countless people trapped in circumstances they hated, believing themselves powerless to change, not knowing that the power of change was within them all along. He dedicated himself to revealing this power, to making it practical and accessible, to providing methods that anyone could apply regardless of education, background, or prior experience. His gift to humanity was the democratization of creation. The understanding that you do not need to be a saint or a genius or a chosen one to shape your reality. You only need to understand the law and apply it with consistency. You now have what Murphy spent a lifetime teaching. You have the understanding. You have the method. You have the warnings about mistakes and the guidance for refinement. You have case studies showing the law in action. You have scientific validation confirming the mechanism. You have everything you need to transform your reality completely. The only thing remaining is your decision. Will you apply this knowledge or let it fade into forgetting? Will you practice the methods or drift back into unconscious creation? Will you assume the state of your wish fulfilled or continue wanting something that seems perpetually out of reach? The decision is yours. No one can make it for you. No one can create your life for you. You stand at a fork in the road. One path leads back to victimhood, to circumstances controlling you, to hoping and wishing and waiting for change that never comes. The other path leads to mastery, to you controlling circumstances, to assuming and feeling and creating the life you actually want. Both paths are real. Both are available to you right now. The universe waits to see which you will choose. Type in the comments, "My mind creates my world." This is your final declaration. This is the seed you plant in your own consciousness. This is the command you give to your subconscious as you close this teaching. And subscribe to Sacred Logic if you have not already. The journey of conscious creation is not a single lesson but a lifelong practice. Each teaching on this channel builds upon the others. Each video deepens your understanding and sharpens your ability to apply the law. Miss one, and you miss a piece of the puzzle. Stay with me, and you will develop the mastery that transforms every area of your life. The universe is not a cold machine indifferent to your existence. The universe is a living, responsive field of consciousness that mirrors your every thought and feeling. You are not a tiny creature lost in vast emptiness. You are a focal point of infinite creative power, a localized expression of the same intelligence that shapes galaxies and stars. When you think, the universe thinks through you. When you feel, the universe feels through you. When you create, the universe creates through you. You are not separate from the universe. You are the universe becoming aware of itself, discovering its own creative nature, learning to direct its infinite potential through the focus of your individual consciousness. What will you create? The answer to that question is the answer to your entire life. Choose wisely. Choose boldly. Choose as the creator you were born to be. And watch as the universe reorganizes itself to match the magnitude of your vision. This is your moment. This is your power. This is your mind altering the universe. Use it well.